Hi friends, it's Terri Gaines, independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. In this video tutorial, I'm going to share a card created with the Happy Hibiscus Bundle. This is one of Stampin' Up's new online exclusives. On November 5th, Stampin' Up introduced several new online exclusives, and there are some amazing bundles in this stamp set, or in the new online exclusives, and there's two amazing suites. If you are interested in the PDF that I've created, to show you all the new online exclusives that were introduced on November 5th. I have a PDF that you can download on my blog. If you found me via YouTube, look in the text portion of the video and you will find a link to my blog post. As I mentioned, I'm going to be using the Happy Hibiscus Bundle. With this bundle, you save 10% because you're bundling the stamp set and folder and the dies together. The stamp set has 12 stamps in it, and they are two-step stamps. So you can stamp the outline stamps and then stamp in the solid images. And there's some beautiful sentiments. The embossing folder and the dies are hybrid. They come together. You receive 11 dies in the 3D embossing folder. So let me kind of show you what you get in this bundle. You get 12 stamps. So this is all one stamp to stamp the outline of these three flowers, which coordinate with a die that will cut all three of those out. And it also works with this. I'll talk about that in a moment. You have three separate flower images that you can stamp into the outline to get your flower colored in. For this sample here, I'm showing how I did that, but I also took a blending brush and then added some more color to fill in some space there. I'm going to be showing you the blending brush in my tutorial. You have these two leaf stamps that are outlined and these two that are solid working together. You can create those two, and you have dies that will cut that out. Love that the dies will cut all of that out. You have three great sentiments and a background stamp. With the dies, you have 11 dies, along with the one die that's going to cut this out, and those two. You're going to have 4 flower dies, 2 different leaf dies, 2 different label dies, and then you're going to have this die. This die works really great with the embossing folder. So with the embossing folder, you can emboss your cardstock, or you can, on the logo side of the image, with the cut of the cutting portion going up, the cutting blade going up. It's not a sharp blade. It's not going to cut you when you touch it. But you want to put the die right in here. And what you can do, let me actually show you. I have, let's see, I forgot to bring over that. No, I have it right here. Let me show you what that's going to do. So you put it in here, find it where it doesn't twist, where it's a nice snug fit. Put it on the platform of your die cutting machine. Get that all lined up. Take your cardstock. In this case, I have a 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. I'm just going to cut out those flowers. So I'm going to place that down, close it. Because it's a 3D embossing folder, you're going to take your plate number 4, put that on top, run that through. And when you run that through, it's going to cut out those 3 flowers, and it's going to emboss them. So that's what we want to do for this project that I'm going to do. So that's what happens when you put the die in there. If you take your cardstock and you place it in here, let me grab another sample here, and any section that you'd want to put this, I'm going to put this right here in this corner. This is, you place that, run that through, then it's going to just emboss your cardstock. So these are some pieces that we're going to use for this card that I'm going to show you. So I love all the ways that this all coordinates together. And as I mentioned, you can cut these out and they are just absolutely beautiful. So that's kind of a summary of the bundle, and already gave you a little sampling of how this card's going to be working. So we're going to use this layer. This is actually, I'm going to just throw that away. We're going to be using these 3. And so let's get the rest of our supplies out. So when I was looking at designing this card, looking at the elements I'm going to be using, I'm going to use these 3 flowers. And then what I did was I cut out 3 of these leaves with granny apple green, so that's going to be part of my embellishments for this card. So what I did was I went to my Inking of You card sketch booklet. Over the last 3 years, I have created 131 card sketches. I put them all into a booklet. Inking of You is my team name. We've used these for some different challenges throughout my team and different flyers and events that we've created. So I have 131 of these in a 22-page booklet. This is free if you have a qualifying order. If you place a $75 order with me, I'll mail this to you free, 1 per customer. So what I did was, knowing that I'm going to have 3 images, I kind of looked through my booklet. I have lots of different options I could pick that if I wanted to use them, but also I wanted to showcase the embossing folder. So I looked for a card sketch with images and a larger layer that I could add, or I could add to the card. A lot of these are available to use. You could actually pick so many of these. I selected card sketch number 12. So card sketch number 12, even though it visually, whoops, I got a die in there. Even though it only shows 1 oval, you can modify these. So when I have a measurement for a layer, you can change the layer. You can add more than 1 layer. Your decorative image can be larger, smaller, and can be multiples instead of 1. And it's a starting point for your creativity. So this was the starting point for my cards that I'm going to share with you. So I have a card base. The card bases for these measurements would be 8.5 by 5.5, folded in half or scored at 4 1/4, and then folded on the score line. Or you could create it to be 11 by 4 1/4, folded or scored at 5.5. So I'm going to choose that my card be opening in this fashion, or my card base. Then, as I mentioned, the card layers, the measurements for the layers can be modified. I want to add some color into this. So my 5 by 3 3 3/4 is my Calypso coral. Then I've added this in here, and then I have this layer. So I actually have 3 layers here, and I want to kind of pop these colors out a little bit, because these are the 2 colors I'm going to color that flower, those flower images in. So as I mentioned, when you use a card sketch, it's an inspiration for your creativity or starting point, but you can modify all of the details, as I mentioned, from the layer size to the layer numbers, all of that. So what I'm going to do is just quickly here put these 3 layers together. I'm not going to color in this. I'm going to leave that white. And when I adhere my layers together, I put the adhesive on the smaller layer that I'm assembling, and then I'm looking kitty corner from each, or at each corner here, and I'm looking at each side to get my layers to be even on all 4 sides. So there are so many different ways you can put your layers together, and you just need to find the way that's most comfortable with you. But I like to look at opposite corners and look for straight alignment. And then when I'm comfortable with that, I'll place that down and burnish it to adhere it. So that's what we have right here. Now we have these little strips. I don't know if you can see that. I did not put a measurement there. That can be cardstock, that can be designer series paper. I'm going to actually use a piece of ribbon. So I'm going to actually use this ribbon. I'm going to just take this and I'm going to cut it right like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just put my Stampin' Seal right on the ribbon. The ribbon is a 1/2 inch. It is the iridescent 1/2 inch ribbon that's in the annual catalog, and I'm going to add that just across here. So I'm going to use the ribbon instead of cardstock. So that's what I have so far. So these are going to be my embellishments. So what I want to do is I want to add some color to these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a scratch paper, here. Here's a piece of cardstock that I'm going to work on. And maybe what I'll do instead is I'll bring in my silicone craft mat. That's going to pop out the colors for you better. Okay. So I'm going to add color to these. How I'm going to add my color is with a blending brush. We sell blending brushes in 2 different sizes, our regular and our small, and you get 3 of each in the package. I dedicate my brushes to different families of colors. So I've got this one dedicated to my oranges and my Calypso Coral. I'm sorry, I've got this one dedicated to that, and this one is dedicated to my yellows. So I'm going to take Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to color all of these flowers in with the Daffodil Delight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause this video shortly, and I'm going to grab a product I forgot across the room, and then I'll be right back. So I grabbed a piece of colored scrap paper because I wanted to work on that instead of the silicone craft mat. And then I grabbed a couple clear blocks. If you are working with a glass mat, you can use your glass mat. If you don't have a glass mat, clear blocks work great for what I'm going to be doing when I color in these. So I've already mentioned I'm going to color them in, or maybe I didn't. I told you I have the blending brushes, but I'm going to use the blending brushes to color them in. So I want the scrap paper on the back, and if I use white, it's going to camouflage my image right into the paper. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to dedicate 1 block to my Calypso Coral and 1 block to my Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to rotate it in a circular fashion and then go the other direction. Because there's so much ink on here, if I go right to my project, it's going to leave kind of like a glob or a dark image. So I'm going to kind of tap it and roll it across the clear block. That's going to get most of it off. But just in case it's still a lot on there, I'm going to start in the middle and go in a circular fashion and color in this flower image. Now, I got most of it here. Now, this is pretty light, so I'm going to go back to the clear block and pick up that ink that I put on there, and then I can go back to this and finish coloring that in. So I want that to be a light version of just a soft coloring of the Daffodil Delight. Now, I want to do this for all 3, so I'm going to all 3 floral images. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now your fingers, because I'm holding this on with my fingers, they're going to get inky. And you know what? That's okay. It just shows that I was being creative and make things in my, that happens. That's okay. So I've got those 2 done. Now I'm going to do that small one. So as I mentioned, I'm just using the block to get that ink to come off. Now, I could be doing that on the scratch paper too, but then what happens, it dries. When you do this on your clear mat or your clear block, you can go back and pick it up because it hasn't dried yet, and then you can add more color. So that's what I want to do at the beginning. That's where I want to get my soft colors with the Daffodil Delight. Now I'm going to, so I use the big brush for that. Now I move to a small brush because I want to concentrate in the center and bring the color to the outside. So now I'm going to take my Calypso Coral. I'm going to rotate it in both directions again. I'm going to tap it on here and then kind of get that ink off. I'm going to start with the large one. I'm going to go right in the center, a soft circle, and then I'm going to work my way out. And each time you do this, it's going to look a little different. And it's also going to look different depending on how much ink you have on the brush. So I'm going to go back here, pick up some of that color that I put on that clear block. And then I'm going in the center and working my way out, lifting it up and going back to the center. And now you continue this until you're happy with how your color is. So I'm going to, actually I want to put a little bit more of a dark color in the center. So I'm going to add more to the brush, kind of tap it off here. And so I'm going to start lightly and then just go in a circular fashion to get a more condensed color right in the center. And then work my way to get a softer color on the edge. So I'm going to say I'm happy with how that turned out. I'm going to add just a little bit more going down here. Okay. I'm going to do this again. Oops. Rotate it in both directions. Tap it, get some of that off. I'm going to do the same thing for this medium-sized flower. I'm going to rotate it in the center, just make the circle larger and bring it out to each of those petals a little bit. And because I want this to have both the daffodil and the calypso coral combination. And then one more time. And I could be picking that color up. Now I've got a pretty dark color there, and that's okay. We'll just try to blend out those marks that I have. This one just might be more calypso coral than any of the daffodil on there. Now, as I mentioned, I still have color on this clear block. And so I'm going to add a little bit more here and a little bit more here. All right, so that's how I've colored these images in. And I'm still not done. I still want to do a little bit more. Now, what I do want to do is take a calypso coral blend. I'm going to take the bullet side of the dark color. With the blends, you get the light and the medium in a combo. I'm going to take the bullet tip instead of the brush tip. And I'm going to just color right on the center part of this flower and just do some little dots here. And then I'm going to put a little dots in the center here. That's just going to help define that flower a little bit. So that's what I have so far. Now what I'm going to do is add a little bit of glimmer to this. We have the, these are the Wink of Stella brushes, and it is it's got a glimmer in it. So once you get it all working, when you purchase it, let's see if I can show you. You get this black ring there. When you open it up, you got to take that black ring out, and then it actually activates the clear or the glimmer liquid that's inside. So what I've got this already working, and I'm going to brush some of this glimmer onto these flowers, and that's just going to add a little bit of shine. Just a great way to dress this up. And this little iridescent glimmer is going to be perfect because I've added that glimmer trim to the card. So this is a great way to add a little bit of sparkle to your project. And so let me see if I can, and then you squeeze this. It shows you right where you squeeze this to get some of that more liquid to come out. You do have to be careful. You don't want to squeeze it so hard that it globs out. You want to make sure it flows out nicely, and it will add a glimmer to your project. This is a great way to add glimmer to Christmas cards too. So I am just coloring in this, kind of filling it up all in and adding a glimmer to the entire petal. So I'm going to bring this closer to the camera. I don't know if it shows up in the light or not, but you have a little bit of glimmer there. So let's assemble the card. So we've got those, we got our leaves. Oh, I need one more thing to talk to you about. It has a sentiment right here. So when I did my samples, I have a couple samples to show you. When I used this banner and used the banner over the flowers, it kind of covered up too much of the flower images. So what I did was I stamped the sentiment. I'm going to use congratulations. And then I fussy cut this out. And it's not my cup of tea, but our paper snips work great. So what I usually do is I start here and I work my way and I do the center of the C first. When I've tried doing the outside first and go to the inside, I don't have good success. So just a tip, start over on the right side, go across the top, do the inside of the C, and then go around. So what I do is I hold the paper snips. Now I'm trying to keep a little bit of white space. So what I do is I hold the paper snips and then I just move the cardstock. And then you can just kind of go up and move the cardstock and follow the image. I'm right-handed, so This works great for me to do it this way. And as I mentioned, just move the cardstock instead of moving the paper snips and continue. And to save some video time, I have that done ahead of time. It's not my favorite thing to do. The majority of this is going to be on white, and it's going to camouflage any imperfections. Now, I did forget one more product. I am going to see if I can work without it, or goodness, I'm not going to stop the video and start. I forgot to grab my liquid glue, and I don't have any handy. It's across the, oh, I do see one. I do have one handy. Oh, it's brand new. That's okay. So I don't use the liquid glue very often, and it's going to work great for this. So my videos are unedited. I know how to bring 2 videos together, but I don't know how to do a lot of the other editing. So bear with me on all of this. So we've got our liquid glue, we've got some dimensionals handy, and what we're going to do is just create it similar to that. But that was a starting point. I'm going to take that out of the picture because now it's a matter of how you want to put this together. So what I'm going to do is how I like to do this, I'm going to start out with the biggest flower, and I'm going to put 3 dimensionals across the back. Now I'm sharing some details on why I'm putting only 3 and across the back. I'm putting right across the center. That allows me space to tuck the leaves underneath, because I don't want to put those down first because I want to kind of position them to how this works. And if I don't put dimensionals on the top, I can tuck the other 2 flowers underneath. So that's how I'm going to do that. So I put 3 across the large flower, and I'm going to have that set about right here. Okay, now I'm going to take one of the leaves. I'm going to bring in my silicone craft mat. I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to put adhesive on the back, and then I'm going to tuck this one right here. I'm going to take another one, put adhesive across the back, and I'm going to tuck that underneath. And like I mentioned, without putting the dimensionals there, that allows you to tuck it underneath. For this one, I am going to cut that little stem off. I'm going to put adhesive across the back and tuck that one in right like that. Okay. Now you can put dimensionals behind this flower, and I'm actually going to, or you can just use your regular adhesive. Now for this one, I'm going to tuck this one underneath here. Let's see, I'm just going to tuck that in, and I think I'm going to just put it about right here. And for this one, I'm going to also put it 1 dimensional, take the backing, and this little one is going to be tucked right here. All right, so now we have this sentiment. So this sentiment is going to go across here. So I'm going to place it right across here. So it's going to be up a little bit, and if I was to look at this, it's up a little bit from this layer, but like I said, this was inspiration. You can change this. Once you get to this point, you just decide how you want this to be. So it's going to adhere a little bit to the flowers, and then it's going to adhere a little bit to the ribbon. Because I put dimensionals behind the flowers, I'm going to put dimensionals behind part of the sentiment. So it's going to be that largest section there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the edge of my dimensional sheet. There are some like half a dimensional strips or a longer strip. I'm going to take a section of that, and I'm going to adhere that to that back section that does not have the cutouts. Now I did not fussy cut around in here because it's going to be camouflaged onto that white. But I also need to adhere a little bit of this down. So I'm going to take my liquid glue. Oops, I should have known that, right? It's brand new, so it's gonna come out really quickly. I should have got a little bit, I guess. So what I'm gonna do is, it's been sitting there a while. So there we go. Whoops. Oh, all kinds of little issues today, but that's how it usually goes. So I just want a little bit of liquid glue on that side. So now what I can do is take this and say, I want this to be placed right here. And that part's going to be stuck with the adhesive, and this part's going to be stuck with the dimensional. And that is the card that I've created. So I've used a few different products. I've used the blending brushes. I've used the Stampin' blends, and then the wink of Stella. So I'm just kind of rotating this to see if you can see that little wink of Stella there. So I just love how that card turned out. I have created this card with some different colors. This one I used the white cardstock, and I used real red and put just the real red on there and the wink of Stella. And then I have the basic black wink, Stampin' blends to color that in. I still use the Granny Apple Green. And then this one, I use Melon Mambo and the Daffodil. So the same card layout, but 3 different color combinations. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. If you are interested in my card sketch booklet, it is not for sale. It's only a free item for qualifying orders. I also have fun fold card kits available for qualifying orders. So check out the bottom of my blog post or the text portion of the video for all my details. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, reach out to me. Thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this project. Take care and happy creating.